4 years ago, when we first moved here, this vegetable garden was one of the first projects I tackled. Back then, these raised beds felt like potential, neat, tidy, full of excitement. But gardens change, and if you've gardened long enough, you know that sometimes things don't evolve the way you imagined. These beds became, well, kind of a disaster. Weed pressure out of control, root knot nematodes filling the beds one by one, and the layout, honestly, it was rushed and never really worked. So today, we're finally doing what I've needed to do for a long time. Ripping everything out, completely starting over. It's not sentimental, it's not bittersweet, it's actually a relief. Because this space is about to become the vegetable garden it should have been from the beginning.
You ready to destroy things?
Blowing stuff up never gets old.
If we had dynamite, we might need it for some of these weeds.
You know, I had a thought, what I thought was a really good idea, and my wife disagrees. But you know how they make Christmas lights that are like in a mesh so you can put it on a bush? Why not use that on your tree? Because then instead of wrapping things around and they're not all uniform, you just wrap your tree with one of those. All the lights are in like perfect, you know, distance from each other. That's a good idea.
I'm with Jenna.
My genius is unappreciated in many
Because
places.
here, see, I put my lights inside the tree too, so there's depth.
Yeah,
And if
but
you just
you
have a
can still
net-
put them through that net.
Yeah, that'd be hard.
Oh my gosh. All right, well,
Sorry.
you know what? I'm a good idea machine around bad idea people.
Wow, that should be a t-shirt.
That
There we go.
is a good idea.
These beds served their purpose until they didn't. It happens sometimes. A design works for a season or two and then problems start stacking up. With every bed we pull out, I'm reminded of how many times I've tried to save this space. Solarizing, compost, crop rotations. Nothing touched the nematodes. And the weeds, they were definitely winning. At some point, you stop trying to just put patches on what's broken and you rebuild.
All right, I'm gonna leave Joel to that on his own for a bit and get over here and do a little bit of planting.
These little flower seedlings are going into the cottage garden today. We've got money plant, nodding catchfly, valerian, pink bachelor buttons, and stock. Between the storm coming through a week or so ago and us literally tearing out the vegetable beds, planting something new feels right. There's something grounding about planting seedlings. It's like a little piece of hope. They don't look like much now, but in spring, this area will be full of color. When you're tearing down one part of the garden, it helps to be nurturing something new. It keeps the vision alive.
So one of the casualties of the storm last week was this climbing rose. It slid right off the gable. And because climbing roses aren't like a vine that actually climbs on its own, it has to have help. Before I try to wrestle this back up onto the roof, because doing it like this, even with my rose pruning gloves, it would probably fight me the whole way and be pretty painful. So what I'm gonna do is keep the main, strongest, heaviest canes and then prune off a lot of the smaller ones that are just gonna get in my way, and these will be replaced by new growth in the spring anyway. So you can see when I put the roof on here in the thatch, I put on some heavy duty wire. I hooked it right into the roof. So that way I can hook these large canes right to it. And then the rest of the canes, the smaller canes, I can actually hook to the cane or tie to the cane. So to put the cane onto the heavy duty wire, I've got some tiny black rope, but it's strong.
Gardens fall apart sometimes. Storms, seasons, life. But things can be restored. Beauty can be lifted back into place.
So these are the chives that I dug out of the vegetable garden. These were from beds that did not have any weed issues, nematode issues. These were healthy. I had to throw away a lot that did have those issues. But these, there's quite a few here that I want to plant along the path in the cottage garden. Instead of putting them back into the new vegetable beds when they're done, I'm just going to plant seeds over there. I'm going to put these into the cottage garden along the path. And that way in spring, when there's so much color up here, this is just going to add to that. Now, chives could not be easier. They're a really tough plant. You can see there's lots of little starts here, and they're bunched together, but you can pull them apart, and as long as they have some roots, they're going to be fine. But we're going to take off some of this green, leave some. And all alliums are gopher resistant. So chives, onions, garlic. Gophers don't like those.
Chives are incredibly hardy, and once they're established, they come back bigger every year. The pink flower heads in spring are perfect for this spot. It's one of those plants that works as both an edible and an ornamental. It feels good to save something from the old vegetable garden and give it a real place to shine out here. Not everything from the vegetable garden needed to be thrown out. Some of it just needed a better home.
Oh, it's a good girl. It's a good girl. What are you eating? What are you eating? It's a foggy morning here. Yesterday, Joel and I got almost all the wooden beds out. I'm leaving the 3 asparagus beds for a couple more weeks until the asparagus has had a chance to die back, and then I can remove it, move it somewhere else, then get those beds out. So today all that's left really are the 2 fabric beds. I'm going to get all the soil out, get it where it needs to go, because this is not contaminated soil in these beds. Remove the beds and kind of start just cleaning things up a little bit. And then once I get the asparagus beds out, I will probably run a tiller over the terraces here to get them loosened up a bit so I can get the big rake out and get these nice and flat so they're ready for our new layout. So let's get to work.
This part of the project always feels the same. The point where the big dramatic work is done and what's left is the slower, methodical cleanup that actually finishes the job. Getting the main vegetable beds out yesterday was the hardest part. This isn't complicated work, but it takes time. None of it makes a big moment, but it all adds up. As the last pieces come out, the space finally starts looking like a blank slate. The asparagus beds will stay right where they are for a couple more weeks until they die back, but everything else is just clearing, smoothing, and getting the ground ready for what's coming next. With each section cleaned up, this garden gets a little closer to the reset it needed.
fabric beds are out. The space is feeling very open. It already feels completely different. Like I mentioned before, this area was a rush job 4 springs ago. And as soon as we had the terraces done, I had Bill here with the tractor to put the beds here, fill them up. So I didn't even get to see these terraces really empty for very long. And so it looks like a completely different space. I actually saved 4 perennials and some chives. We have an echinacea, a rudbeckia, my habanada pepper, and the Thai basil that was huge. I have them in pots as a quarantine just to make sure that, just to make sure that I didn't bring any Bermuda grass roots or bindweed roots. So those can stay in here for a while until I see any of those start to grow, or if it's been a couple of months and they aren't growing, then I'll figure they're pretty safe and I'll move them elsewhere. All in all, I'm very happy seeing everything come out, and I'm really excited for what's next.
I know this doesn't have to be finished today. What matters is the direction finally changed. Clearing out the old beds opened the space back up. You can actually see the garden again, not the problems, but the possibilities. There's still more ahead, the asparagus beds and really getting in here and flattening everything out, smoothing everything, and then the new layout can start to take shape. But the hardest part is done. The reset has begun, and now it's just building forward.